Okay, well, we wanted to thank everyone for joining us tonight for our wellness webinar. Just a couple of quick housekeeping issues before we get started. The first is that the call will be recorded, so for those of you who were not able to make it, we will be sharing it later on, so you'll be able to catch it on the replay. And secondly, we really encourage you to ask questions at the end of the webinar. There's a place at the bottom for Q&A that you can type your questions in, and Natalie is going to answer them at the conclusion of the webinar. Considering the circumstances of the coronavirus pandemic, we're going to continue to offer mental health webinars and live exercise programs to the community at no cost. We want to ensure that we're providing you with some extra support to help you manage your stress levels during these stressful times. And that's what brings us here this evening. The topic of tonight's webinar is proactive self-care steps in times of crisis. So I'm really excited to introduce my friend and our incredibly smart, passionate, inspirational subject matter expert, Natalie Reimer Anderson, who will be leading the webinar tonight. Natalie is a self-love expert and coach. She's dedicated her life to helping people improve every area of their lives. She's a former professional athlete, high school teacher, holistic nutritionist, and she discovered the power of self-love and used those powers to heal her own health first, and then to help thousands of others. So we're super excited to share with you her practical knowledge that we're certain will help you, not just now while we're dealing with the coronavirus pandemic, but in the future as well. So thank you very much for joining us tonight, Natalie. We're super, super grateful, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me okay? You can hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Okay, well, we meet on these interesting terms in this interesting time. And I just want to say before we begin that I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Grant and the entire team at GFIT. Because truly, you know, this is a time of our collective history where we may be social distancing, quarantining, but now more than ever, we need community and we need to be leaning on one another. So kudos to you guys and the whole GFIT fam for creating this community where people can feel supported no matter what the situation, right? So bravo, bravo. And I want to just let you know that I'm super honored to be here again. Last time I was here speaking to you all, it was my birthday. And so circumstances have changed a lot in a few months. And but I'm equally honored to be able to be here and share with everybody tonight what has come through as a message to me and really come through my heart that I want to share with you. And I want to start off by letting you know that I currently have a really, really interesting job, my calling, my career, the reason that I'm on this planet. And one of the most wonderful parts of it is being able to speak to people and have a voice and have people listen. It's truly an honor. But I have a job a couple of days a week where I work with veterans who have severe PTSD. And, you know, these are the absolute ultimate of heroic people who have served our country, and they've done it, you know, to the absolute best of their ability. And the one resounding lesson and message that they teach me when I work with them is that, you know, in times like these, the number one thing that we can do is be the master of our own mind and our own emotions, and to not allow fear to get the best of us. So in that way, we as individuals out there that are part of this collective body that is humanity, we get to show up very heroically by managing our own self. Now that's exciting because each one of us has a part to play really in how this all plays out. And we're at this unique little, you know, bubble in history where our personal choices and our collective choices are going to resonate potentially for generations to come. So I really want us to take this as a challenge and something that we can show up for in our own way, very heroically in our own life, starting with ourselves. So I want to teach you a few tips that can help you to not give in to the fear and some of the programming that happens in these uncertain times, and just to be able to really ground down into yourself and feel confident with the choices that you are making. Now, what tends to happen when things feel out of our control is that fear starts to creep in, and we start to obsess about the things that we can't control, right? And so to bring that, to distill it down back into what is it that we can control, and to really look at that and let go of the rest. Because there's going to be a lot of things that occur over the next couple of weeks that we can't control, nor can we predict. So spending a lot of time ruminating and allowing our mind to get into those thought patterns can create a downward spiral. But you have the power to interrupt that and change the course of where you take your own mind. So this is going to be a lot about mindset and what you can do to mitigate or even to change the course of where your choices and your inner calm goes. So shifting the focus from the external, all these things that are happening around us, to the internal is one of the ways to do that. And cultivating this inner dialogue of consciously choosing to be proactive and positive, because it can make a huge difference from this feeling of being disempowered, right? We're already getting into like day 10 for most of us of self-isolation. Some people still being required to go into work. So a lot of things not within your control. And when these times come about, we can start to feel paralyzed with overwhelm due to the uncertainty. So I'm going to share with you the antidotes to that paralyzed feeling and that overwhelm. One of the ways, and this is not a point necessarily, but even shifting our language around social isolation, right? Quarantining. I've come to call this a time of cocooning, because the word cocoon kind of predicates that this is a time of transformation. This is a time of going within and distilling down what really matters and letting go of all the rest, right? There's nothing like a crisis to get us into, that 0 point again, where we get to decide what is meaningful to us and what we want to carry forward in our lives. So when you use the word cocooning, that sort of connotes this idea of a rebirth coming, right? So we may be in this incubation process right now, but this is a really pivotal time where we can begin to shape the dialogue around, like our inner dialogue around what this very, very meaningful time in history can be for us. So the way that I help in my own mind to get through this, like, oh, things are so different already from a week ago. The fundamental question that we need to be asking ourselves right now is, what am I creating in this time? Because if there's one thing that chaos brings, it's the moment of creation, right? So we have our creation power found in this time of chaos, where we can recreate how we want our lives to look going forward. So the question is, what am I creating? And the gift of a time like this is that you get to answer, and the answers are found in how you choose to answer it. So how to create and cultivate your cocoon of calm in this time of, I would say, chaos more than crisis. And chaos as in, if everything is, uncertain, we have the power of choice to create something new from this. So the first thing is conscious breathing. So breathing consciously. Why is that? I mean, you guys hear that all the time, and I know it probably sounds really trite, and it's like, oh, okay, we've heard this before. But breathing consciously, these conscious recalibrations, is the only way and the number one way that you can have control over your central nervous system. So as we know, we've got the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, right? And the sympathetic is when we get into that state of fight, flight, or freeze, that very triggered response that either has us wanting to like flee, fight, or even just that paralysis that comes when we get those feelings. So we can tend to get stuck in sympathetic dominance, which is that fight, flight, or freeze is switched on all the time. And we start breathing very, very shallowly in our lungs. And the thing about our breath is that it's a signal and a feedback, right? So when we're breathing in a shallow way, we are signaling to our body, our central nervous system, that we are in danger. And when we are in danger, we breathe shallowly. So the antidote to that is to consciously recognize when you're breathing at the top of your lungs and to recalibrate and breathe deeply into the bellows of your lungs, all the way down. That switches your body from sympathetic back into parasympathetic, and it happens really quickly. This is so significant that this is something they actually teach to our military troops. And for anybody who's ever been on a sports team, you know, you're at the free throw line or you're at the service line, the first thing that your coach will tell you is to take a deep breath in and then take a deep breath out. And immediately that sedates the body. It tells your mind that you're safe. And then you switch back into the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest. That is the state at which we can make rational decisions, and we can analyze the information that's coming in and be able to make an informed decision from a place of personal empowerment versus fear, right? And if we're looking at the enemy right now is fear. So FDR, I believe, said, you know, years and years ago, we only have to fear, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. There, that's what it was. And he said that in response to another crisis that was happening in North America at the time, which was the Great Depression, right? And so people were not dissimilar to this time. People didn't know what was going to happen. So cultivating these states of inner calm through something as simple as breathing deeply is profound. So don't discount that. That is your number one way of bringing yourself back into calm. Now I want to show you it's called the 7-10-4 breath. And it's basically how you can hack your central nervous system to bring you into those states of calm. It's been referred to, I think, as the Valsalva technique. So it has a name on it because it works. It works. Somebody recognized that this brings down all the markers of stress in the body. So I want you to do it with me at home. So what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in for a count of 7, always through the nose. If you breathe through the nose, it's telling your nervous system that you're safe. If you breathe through the mouth, in through the mouth, it's telling your nervous system that you're getting ready to fight. Okay, so it goes into primal mode. So you can breathe out through your mouth, that's fine, or you can breathe out through your nose, but always breathe in through your nose to cultivate those states of calm. All right, the other trick to this is that you're gonna breathe out longer than you breathe in. So when you go and do this at home, if you're ever feeling a little bit nervous or panicked or you know that stress is starting to build, you can do these little conscious recalibrations anytime you need to, okay? So breathing in for a count of 7, then we're gonna hold full lung capacity at the top for a count of 4, and then you're gonna breathe out through your nose or your mouth. When you breathe through your mouth too, if you make an audible sigh, a sigh that you can hear, that's another way of signaling to your brain that you're safe. Because when we sigh or we yawn, that's a signal that our body gives, but we can actually replicate that sound and trick our body into believing that it's safe, and then it becomes safe. It matches those signals. So this is how it looks. 7 in, count to 4 at the top, and then a slow release to a count of 10 to let it go. And then we're going to hold empty at the bottom for a count of 4. So breathing in with me, count of 7 through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. And back to 7, breathing in. So that full cycle, if you do that 3, 4, 5 times, your entire nervous system will switch back into parasympathetic. Okay? It's literally medicine to your nervous system. Okay, so that's step number 1. Okay? Second step, and by the way, I know Grant mentioned this, but I'm just going to say, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat or in the Q&A. I'm going to answer them all at the end and maybe open it up for a little bit more of a discussion style, but I just want to get through these points first to make sure that I can get through them in the hour, and then we'll see what we have left to answer your questions. Okay, so the second point that's really important in this time is to shift your focus. So when we're in these states of fear, we tend to become egocentric. And that's not necessarily a bad word, except for when we're focusing on our experience alone and we get really caught up in what our body is feeling, okay? Now, it's absolutely important to feel your feelings. They're messengers. It's important to see what message they have for you. But it's also important to move through our feelings and to not treat our feelings as if they're facts. Sometimes we can feel a way, and it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the truth of what's happening. It just could mean that this is a mounting pressure that's coming at us, where even feelings of boredom can start to weigh on the psyche. So in order to get yourself out of that egocentric and fear-based thinking is to do something altruistic. So that means to shift your focus from what's going on in your own world, because that world will become smaller and smaller if we give into fear, and rather looking at what's happening with other people and the collective and who we can be helpers for. This sounds like, you're doing, yes, absolutely doing things for others, but it's actually doing something for yourself too. The more you can reach out to somebody else, the more you begin to see beyond yourself and really connect to the collective, and you don't feel as alone. And that's really one of the things that, because we are such an interconnected species and we need that connection, like I was saying before about what GFIT is providing here, is lean on your community, stay connected to your community, even in times when, it feels like you're very isolated. That's the time to reach out to someone else to see how they're doing. It's sort of this weird hack, but it almost feels like oxymoronic, right? Just to reach out to someone else when you are the one that you feel needs the help. But there's something in our ability to give to others that allows us to receive from that. So empathy, compassion, kindness, right? These are the antidote to what we're experiencing when we're feeling isolated. And, the most important thing in this time with what we're going through is that we know that lots of things are being canceled, but compassion, community connection, kindness, common decency, and courtesy, these things are never canceled. And as a group of people that at the very least we have each other, we can be an example and a shining light to others in our community. I was saying to Grant earlier, this is a wonderful time in a way for people to step into a new role and show up differently and show up for their community in really beautiful ways. And there's nothing that tests the human spirit and shows people what they're made of, like this kind of crisis, this kind of chaos, right? Is that we can show up differently and really step into that kind of role for other people. So one of the things that I would challenge you with is to offer what you can of yourself in service to others through this time. I've seen a lot of people that are reaching out to those that are more vulnerable, offering to do some, grocery shopping, picking up supplies for other people. I recall I think it was the flood of 96, or was it 97? You guys can correct me. In that time, how many young people, well, young and old, just came out and did whatever they could to sandbag. And it's like, that is a beautiful moment in our story, right? Isn't it? Just like so beautiful. And this can be the same. And I hope that after this is all done, each one of us will be able to look back and see, have a sense of pride in where we contributed to the lives of others, which is also medicine for us. Okay, so the third thing is to edit your influences and to take social media breaks. I'm just going to check into the chat because there's a couple of things coming. Yeah, okay, good stuff. 97. Thank you, JP. It was the flood of 97. Okay, so editing our influences and taking media breaks, right? So what's happening right now, maybe an epidemic, pandemic, but we certainly have an infodemic. And I am guilty of, wanting to have all the information so I can make educated decisions, but also to the point that I think I'm doing myself a disservice at times, right? Whether it is like sort of fear mongering in some of the media, or even well-meaning friends and family that always want to be talking about this. We need to give ourselves a break from social media and from even having these conversations, and keep hope and humor alive. Talk about other things in life. I think of some of the young people out there who all they hear now is talk about this, and really their lives have changed so drastically, like sports being canceled. A lot of these kids I think of in grade 12 that won't be going back to school likely this year, and just what that's like. And if this is how this entire part of their life is defined, then it's going to be a really interesting future. So where can we as adults contribute to their life or contribute to the lives of others, where we change the conversation entirely, right? And we unplug, we allow some of that information to integrate, but we settle into listening to our own inner knowing and our own inner wisdom. With this constant bombardment of this talk, it's very easy to lose ourselves in the overwhelm of it, right? Too much coming in through the ears. And that's what causes that paralysis. So definitely listen, integrate some of the information, but take some time in stillness with yourself and your own thoughts. Change the conversation. Life still goes on. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of beauty out there. There's a lot still happening. This is not the only thing that we need to be talking about and discussing. So a tip for how to integrate that is to choose 3 people a day to reach out to see how they're doing, okay? To send them a message of love and support. Again, that's the therapy for you. Just have a conversation. Don't make it about COVID. Don't make it about this virus. Be a light for people. This is therapy for us as much as it is for them, to just go back to having a semblance of, there's more to talk about out there than just this virus and how our lives are changing. So this is my 4th point, and there's an interesting meme / false, really poor information out there that says that you can't do anything to improve your immune system. And I am shocked and appalled by that, especially as someone who has overcome an immune compromised autoimmune condition myself, using some, very simple remedies, and nutrition being one of them, is please don't believe that. Please don't believe that you are powerless to affect your own immune system. That is absolutely not true. Of course, there's the hand washing and the sanitizing. All of these things are necessary and essential, but fortifying your immune system at the cellular level comes down to making sure that the cell has all the nutrients that it needs, bottom line, okay? Anytime a bacteria, a virus, a foreign pathogen comes our way, you can even have that pathogen within you, and it needs to take hold for it to become the disease. So you can be introduced to or cross paths with this virus, and that does not mean that you're going to get it, especially if you have a fortified immune system, and you absolutely can do that. I'm a holistic nutritionist, and like I said and Grant mentioned, I have healed myself of an autoimmune condition. So there's, I feel like I'm living proof that somebody can take their life and their health into their own hands and do an absolute about face and live from a different place. Things that weaken our immune system are quite simply fear, right? The fear makes us have this susceptibility, right? First of all, it burns through our magnesium, which is what is a sedating mineral. So if you're not already on magnesium or taking Epsom salts baths, because magnesium can be intaken transdermally, so you can sit in a bath, you can spray magnesium on, or you can take it at night, and that's going to also help to take down the stress hormones in your body and help mitigate the stress levels. Also, some of my favorites for immune system fortifying, your basic standard vitamin C. It's finally being widely reported out there that vitamin C is in fact very, very beneficial. I've known this for a long time. In 1939, Otto Warburg discovered that vitamin C is antipathogenic, and it is a serious line of defense in this. So please make sure that if you don't already have vitamin C, that you're taking it daily. Zinc is another one that really enhances the lining of the cell so that it can fight off foreign invaders. Now, I know that you've got your coaches and they are providing these amazing daily workouts, exercising, elevating your body temperature, sauna, anything where you artificially elevate your body temperature is essentially giving yourself a fever. Fevers are the body's defense mechanism to fight pathogens. So create that artificial fever, give your body a chance to as soon as you raise that body temperature, the virus at, I think it's like 130 something, the pathogen is killed. So give yourself that fever, keep exercising, keep working out, or if you have sauna or even hot baths and showers, it's very beneficial. You can even cycle between hot and cold. As a holistic nutritionist, one of the things that we prescribe is hot, and then cold, 20 seconds, 20 seconds. If you have the guts to do that, it's an incredible way to enhance your immune system naturally. The body goes into, and some of you may be familiar with the Wim Hof or the Wim Hof method. He uses hot and cold, and then he uses like complete ice baths cold, because it signals to your immune system that it needs to be at the ready, that something's coming, and it enhances its ability to fight. Other ones that I love, colloidal silver. I learned this one in my studies, but it's been reinforced to me by the veterans that I worked with. These guys were all in active duty out in, places that no one of us want to go. And they always carried a bottle of colloidal silver. Colloidal silver used to be used a lot back in, turn of the century in hospitals. It was the #1 disinfectant. It works like a charm. I've had, different, if you ever, it's so gentle too, you can even use it in an eye infection. You can really use it anywhere. So if you have if you come in from, the street, if you had to touch things, colloidal silver is incredibly potent, better than those hand sanitizers that are drying out your skin and killing off beneficial bacteria also. So if you can get a hold of a bottle of colloidal silver, I would recommend that highly. Iodine is another one. Some of you may remember back when you were kids and you got a cut, and that orange stuff that your mom put on your cut, or even your grandma, that is a powerful antipathogen. It works inside, and it also contributes to thyroid health. That's where I learned about this one. When I was healing my thyroid gland, I was very, very deficient in iodine. And once you start to introduce iodine to the body, it starts to go to work on anything that does not belong there. So it is a first line of defense. I put it a little bit of drops, a few drops in my boys' water every morning and drink it myself, just to keep our immune systems up. Garlic, okay, garlic cloves. Some people will eat them raw. It's potent. There's a reason that, it's the myth of garlic being life-saving. It really is. And then the last one is elderberry syrup. It is, it's funny because, a lot of these natural remedies people roll their eyes at. They don't think that they're powerful, but when you do double-blind studies and test these things, they show up better than most of the antibiotics that are synthetic that we have on the market, or the antivirals that we have out there. So believe in your food, believe that there is, the medicine is in the food. It always has been. And Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. In this time, we need to, fortify our immune systems in every way. And absolutely what we eat matters. So eating from all the colors of the rainbow allows you to get in all the anthocyanins that each color represents and each color has. We have yet to even discover what each of those colors donates to the body. But keep that in mind. Lots of fresh produce for as long as it's available. And even frozen, flash frozen retains the nutrients, so that's just as good. And then the last thing with regards to that is obviously staying hydrated, but also if you can eat things that are high in probiotics. Kombucha is an example of that. Kefir. A lot of people like different sauerkrauts. Anything that's been traditionally fermented. I can think of a brand right now called Bubby's. That's a traditional ferment. If you're next time you're at the grocery store, it's funny. I was at the grocery store not long ago, and I thought, oh, for sure, all of this stuff will be sold out because everybody knows about needing to get their probiotics to protect the entire microbiome, right? Because this is where our immune system, 80% of it is in our gut. And I went to the shelf where they have all the pickles and the sauerkrauts, and it's like everything was left behind. That whole shelf had, like, everything was still there. So my husband and I basically took all these different jars of pickled things. And you have to make sure that they're traditionally fermented. Not all of them are, but it's obvious to me that not everybody knows the power of fermented foods. And if you look back over our shared history, there's every single culture has some kind of fermented food because they knew the power of feeding the digestive system and the microbiome with good bacteria, because that's what fortifies our immune system and keeps us really strong from the inside out. So looking into those things, caffeine-free, and I'm not saying give up caffeinated beverages, just lessen how much you consume them, and definitely make sure that you're getting in basically your water, about half your body weight in ounces of water a day. Herbal teas count, right, if they're caffeine free. Hot water with lemon and ginger and honey. Honey is an incredible antibiotic, antipathogen, and immune system booster. So you can do that too. Broth-based soups are great. And if you can get a hold of bone broth, that's a very powerful nutrient booster too. So consuming at least one of those a day will be beneficial. Just looking here at your comments. Sweet. Somebody said, yeah, they're watching this from their Epsom salts bath. Nice. Yes, and recommend to learn what naturally fermented is. I'm not aware of the difference. Great question. So that's an important question, because naturally fermented, so that means that it's lacto fermented. It's done with the absence of oxygen. So when you go to a grocery store, if you look on the back and it says that it has vinegar in it, that is not fermented. That is just that they've added vinegar to make it have that pungent taste. Naturally fermented is it actually gets sat on a shelf and deprived of oxygen, and so it begins the fermentation process. The one that I can guarantee is called Bubbies, Bubbies. I know that they traditionally ferment their food. If you go to a health food store and you go to if you ask them where are your ferments, they will show you things like the sauerkrauts. There's even pickled eggs out there that are traditionally fermented. Anything like miso soup, kefir, natto, N-A-T-T-O is another one. There are even some traditionally fermented salsas on the market. This may not be easy to find at grocery stores as is, but any health food store that has a grocery section would be a wise place to go find that. I hope that answers the question. So the last thing, and maybe one of the most important, is to maintain daily routines. We can get into a place, like I said, when we're feeling that overwhelm to want to just like crawl into bed and do nothing. And while I am a big proponent of getting lots and lots of rest, especially in this cocooning time, right? Catch up on your sleep, get all the rest that you need, but try to also maintain a relatively productive schedule. I was laughing with Trisha before we came on, and it's like, this is the first time in days that I've gotten dressed and put on makeup, and it feels really good. It actually feels really good because there's a sense of normalcy, right? When we abandon all routine, we get this feeling of being ungrounded, right? So the time, this uncertain time, is already giving us a feeling of not being grounded. So leaning on our schedules, right? Making sure that we're getting our exercise in, making sure that, if you are working from home, that you have a designated work time, right? And you have a designated a play time, right? These things, they seem like, oh great, this is like a big vacation for maybe for some of us. For other people, our routines and our ability to connect with the outside world is really what kept us feeling like ourselves, right? So keep those routines going, continue to get your exercise in. This is a great time where we can emerge from however long this is going to be. No one knows for sure. We can emerge healthier and fitter and stronger, right? So that's an exciting prospect, but that only happens when we maintain a level of self-discipline within our routines and keep that going. For those of you that are interested, I've created a tool. I'm just going to see if I can find it here, because I use them myself every day. And I wrote one this morning, but I'll show you. So if you go to my website, it's nataliereimeranderson.com. I have, to sign up for my website, I have a free tool that I've created, and it's called Create Your Day. It looks like this. Maybe you can see it like that. So basically, it is a one-page, very efficient tool where you just plug in. You can print off one of these per day and fill it out, and it runs you through an affirmation for the day, an intention for the day, so those you set at the beginning of the day, and then you write a list of what do you want to do that day. And I've written down what I call the pillars. You might not be able to see it because of the light, but it's right here. And those pillars are movement, Okay, so every day you have to have some type of movement. You can call it exercise, whatever it is for you, even dancing around the kitchen. I love jumping on my mini tramp. For this alone, we went out and got a rower because, we need to just keep moving and get our blood flowing. Some kind of reading, right? Some kind of writing. Writing is a powerful way to stay connected to yourself. Nourish, like what did you do today to enhance your health? Hydration, connection, that is something that we need to do daily. So that tip about like which are the people that you're going to reach out to. It's going to be medicine for you, but also for them, right? We need each other in this time. And then one of the pillars is stillness. It can be your time to meditate. It can even be your time to nap, but it's a time where you unplug the brain, right? The mind benefits from stillness, where the body benefits from exercise. So we need to have both the movement and the stillness to have a complete experience. If we can do that daily, the 1, 2, 3, 4, those 7 things, it lends to that sense of accomplishment. So if you're sitting at home and feeling really unproductive and like you can't get out there in the world and do what you once did, I never want to associate productivity with a sense of worth, but there is an element of productivity that makes us feel like we're living and like we're contributing. So making sure that we get at least those 7 things in some measure each day. And then you've got a list of your own priorities. Okay, so these are things that, what do you want to accomplish today? It could be something as simple as getting out of your pajamas, taking a shower. I know that this time can weigh heavily on a lot of people. I really feel for you extroverts out there, the people that just love to be out in community and connect. I'm a bit of an introvert myself, but I'm already, starting to feel a little bit that, oh, wow, yeah, we haven't seen a lot of the people that we love. So sense of accomplishment, reaching out, getting connected. And then at the bottom is your reflections on the day. Okay, so if you were part of my webinar last time, you know that I am a big proponent of ending the day with gratitude. And even in this, we have got it good, right? We really do. If you consider what's going on in the world right now, and that we are in this relatively isolated country with a low population, the action that we take now is making a really big difference. And so to make sure that we reflect on that and not discount that, and we still look to the things that we have to be grateful for. That is the number one medicine of all things. And that's the very last thing that you do at night with this particular tool. It always brings you back to what you have to be grateful for. And then, as I said in the last webinar, when we end our day with gratitude, we're planting seeds in our subconscious mind, and those granulate and grow through our sleep cycle. And when we wake up in the morning, that has taken hold, and that is who we become. And in this time, more than anything, panic is contagious, absolutely, but so is peace. And if we personally can cultivate those states of peace and be in a really grounded space within ourselves, we can be a lighthouse to our communities and to our circles, and we can be those ones that influence positively the course of history, potentially. So to leave you on a positive note, the best gift of this collective timeout that we're all experiencing is to stop and reflect on what truly matters. We have a real opportunity here to be still with ourselves and to not be chasing productivity, and to just really distill down what in our life is meaningful, right? Because we're the meaning makers. That's what we are as humans. We're these meaning making machines. So you get to decide for yourself in this time, what is meaningful to you and what does this time in your life mean, right? That whole phrase of it can make you bitter or it can make you better. And that is a choice. And each one of us has that power of choice present at all times within us. So the truth about choices is you make the choices, but then the choices make you. And so every day, recognizing when you wake up that you have the power to make choices that day for yourself and your life. And I like to think of, you know, if we as humans are all just one cell in this body of humanity, if you are a healthy cell, if you are a resilient cell, you can buffer the onslaught of the different cells around you, and you can contribute to their health by just being your healthiest and your most positive. So how are you going to use your power of choice to influence and express health and peace and community and connection and compassion to your circles? Because you have influence, whether you know it or not. You have a lot of influence over those that love you. And so this is our time to all kind of step into this role of, hey, we're all influencers here, whether we know it or not, right? And the impact that your choices make for you and for others. That being said, we're also entering a time where there is an element of, I'm going to say it, but there is an element of grief that's sort of overlying a lot of the consciousness right now. And we are, many of us, in a place where we're, you know, doing the whole denial, the bargaining, the anger, the, you know, coming through to acceptance. And this isn't an easy time. And I get that. And I just want to say that wherever you are in that cycle, and sometimes you'll be in acceptance and then you'll go back into bargaining, like, you know, our world is not necessarily going to look exactly the same. And so this is really a time where we can determine what matters to us and be able to decide how we want to show up differently. And that power is within each one of us. And although you may be going through something right now where it's like you might be in that cycle of grief, like not knowing and not wanting things to change, the more creative and adaptive and the quicker we can get to that place of acceptance, that this is the way that it is, and the more that we can co-create a new world together is our gift that we could potentially be giving to future generations. So if you happen to be somebody who is not faring well with this, and maybe you've tried these tips, or you don't feel like that's enough, I am extending office hours on Friday, and I'm opening them up to all GFIT people, everybody who's on this call or everybody who is listening to it after on the replay. If you want to reach out to me and have a private conversation, I am opening office hours for free on Friday. So just reach out to me, send an email, or you can even reach out to me on Instagram. I'm Blonde Sovereign, and just send me a note and we'll work something out where we can have just a little conversation that is specific to you and what your needs are. It is my absolute privilege to be able to be here on planet Earth in this time. And I really feel like we were born for times like these. And whether you know it or not, you have come from a lineage of survivors. It is like in your DNA. No matter what your current history is, or what you know about the people that have come before you in your family line, somewhere in there, written in your DNA and on your bones, is the ability to survive and thrive during times like these. Now more than ever, you may come face to face with what you are made of, and we are wired to do hard things. We have had such a wonderful most of us, right? Such a privileged existence here in North America. And no matter where this goes, I guarantee we are all equipped to be able to weather any of this. So if you want to continue the conversation with me privately, I welcome you reaching out, and we'll make sure that we can arrange something. So I'm just going to go into the Q&A and read out the questions and see if I can do my best to answer what you have there. So someone asks, for families struggling with keeping close during this time, what do you suggest? With young children in particular, not being able to see their friends, grandparents, etc., is hard. It absolutely is. And I think that's, you know, my heart goes out to people in that situation the most, right? This right here, Zoom calls, powerful. Being able to see one another face to face. I have family that lives out in Alberta. I rarely get to see them face to face, but even just seeing them on the screen, right, it brings back that sense of closeness and just being able to see each other's smiling faces. So I'd recommend, like I have a grandma, she's in her 90s, and we Skype. I need to see that woman, right? She's a rock, and you just got to stay connected. Absolutely. I also saw, this was really super heartwarming. One of my friends posted her parents just got back. They finally made it back from Mexico, back across the border, and they're in quarantine. And they just go past, sorry, my updates just kicked in, so I can't see anybody. Yeah, so they answer live. Here we go. Can you hear me? Okay, sorry guys.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I just lost, I can hear you guys, but I can't see anybody anymore because I just got booted out of the, but that's okay. So I'll just do it this way and see if any more questions come in. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. So these people, she brought her kids to the parents' house, and they just like played in the front yard while the grandparents laughed and watched. And I thought, oh, what a lovely thing to do for the grandparents, right? To be able to see the grandkids playing, just playing in the snow in the front yard. So it's going to call, this is what I'm talking about, calling for us to be creative and adaptive in these times, to come up with new ways of staying connected, you know, and I think we're going to surprise ourselves with what we're capable of. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions? I'm not seeing any in the Q&A. Okay. Okay, well, I don't see any more right now, unless I'm missing someone. I know there was a question from earlier and it's disappeared on me, so I'm not sure if it was in the comments or where it went. Does anybody else see it and can read it out to me? I asked because I'm still booted out of the visual of the call.
Natalie, it says, can you share some tips on how to create emotional and mental roadblocks at the end of the webinar?
How to create them?
Yeah, emotional and mental roadblocks.
How to overcome mental and emotional roadblocks?
Yeah, it says tips on how to create emotional and mental roadblocks. Maybe the person could.
I'm thinking it's like how to overcome emotional and mental roadblocks. Well, it, you know, really depending on, like, if we're talking about limiting beliefs, or yeah, I think if like right now, the things that are going to be causing roadblocks mentally and emotionally for us are not being in control of our own thoughts, right? When we have, like, by the time we're 35, we have 95% the same redundant thoughts that are coming up. Well, now, right, we are probably, most of us, locked into a one-track mind. We're thinking about this, we're listening to things about this daily. It's our conversation all the time. We're even, right, having webinars of how to deal with this. So I would say that getting yourself back into stillness, right? Using the breathing technique because that is going to open up a different space in your brain. When we get into fear, we're in reptilian brain. It's our primal brain. It's prefrontal cortex. If we want to get out of prefrontal cortex, the idea of reaching out to others, right? So we get beyond that small part of our brain where we experience fear from, right? So the antidote to fear, the antidote to feeling blocked, is to find how we can contribute to others, how we can contribute to the collective. So the sort of ironic thing about calling myself a self-love coach is that self-love is one step on the way to self-transcendence. Self-love allows us to get over ourselves, right? And to not be so narrowly focused on just this organism, but to realize how it's connected to the whole. That is the beautiful opportunity in this time of crisis, is that we are one giant team here. So if we can think in terms of being a team player, and showing up for others is also showing up for ourselves. So that we're so interconnected, and this virus is teaching us that. It's a beautiful lesson if we allow it. So I'm not sure if that answered your question, but if you do go into these tips, you'll find that if you practice them, it will give you a way to overcome being dropped into that very narrow lens that fear creates, and allowing us to open back up that space, that calmness, that ability to breathe, that ability to see and respond rather than react. Okay. So if there's nothing further, then Grant, I'll give it back over to you, and thank you everybody for listening and for being on the call. It shows that you care and that this matters to you, and I really appreciate being able to share with you tonight.
Perfect. There's one more question in the chat. If it's okay, I'll ask it.
Happy to do it.
How do you deal with others not following what you perceive as social distance?
Would
you?
Yeah. How do I feel about it?
Yeah, like say someone's out in public and people are not being respectful of what's going on right now, and impeding others' space. And
and I do understand that. I've read a few comments here and there on Facebook about people. There are people that are not respecting it. As with everything, we only have dominion over our own selves, and we can control what we can control. To be frustrated and angry while we're changing our own internal chemistry, right? We're weakening ourselves and our own immunity by giving into anger and frustration at those people. So do your part, so what you can control. And if it's something where you feel like it's your place to say, and that will make you feel empowered, then absolutely say something. And if you feel like it's just going to cause more grief, I would just walk away and try not to frequent places where that's what, the MO of some people still. But yeah, I would say try really hard to not get into any kind of personal insult or taking it on in the form of your own anger or frustration at people. It's just, there's always going to be ignorant people out there. There's people still that don't even think that this is an issue. And the one thing about a virus is that we're not trying to, we're trying to flatten the curve, right? So if the majority of us can get on board with what needs to be done, then that's we create the critical mass, right? We create the tipping point. So there will always be those kind of rogue people that don't follow orders, and I even wish them the best in this time, and hopefully they don't have to learn things the hard way.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This honestly is so incredibly aligned with the conversations that we've been having for the past couple of weeks, both internally with our coaches and externally with our clients. Like everything from, showing up and being the rock or the shining star, the ray of light, in these troubling times, to taking advantage of this opportunity to do things that you've maybe been putting off, and using that time, in solitude to your advantage, to taking care of your immune system, which, we honestly had some negative pushback from some people who were against that, and thinking that we were trying to, downplay the coronavirus, when in fact we weren't. We were trying to be proactive. So thank you very much for this. And, it makes me feel better as a leader that the messages that we've been communicating were in alignment with what you said tonight, only you've said it much more eloquently. So thank you, Natalie. And honestly, this webinar couldn't have come at a better time. And I think it should be mandatory for everyone to watch this. And we hope that everyone took away some value from tonight. The points that you gave were super, super, super useful. And we're lucky to have you stepping up in a time like this.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a quick acknowledgement. I'm back on. I can see it again. I just want to make an acknowledgement to Sarah's comment. And she says, yeah, thank you for enlightening me. 90% of my students have a high social and high social and emotional needs. And during this time, I'm trying to connect with them via social media. And one of my main focuses is to support them emotionally more than anything right now. And thank you so much, Sarah, for your service to these kids. Pretty much everything you have talked about tonight, we talk about in class. Good. So, I used to be a teacher, and I recognize too that, like, you are a frontline worker right now. And even though you are maybe doing things virtually, like, all of us have such an important role to play. And I think anybody who has prized their health, like I'm assuming everybody on this call, right? You're part of the GFIT fam because you prize your health, and you know that this all matters, and that this resonates out to those people that you touch in your life and that you're an example to. So I just want to affirm everybody and say thank you so much for just being part of this movement and how it's going to speak and benefit your circles going forward. You're like the antiviral, and keeping that the negativity and keeping the fear from really infiltrating into our consciousness as a collective. Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks, Grant.
Thanks, Natalie. Have a great night.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.